Hello, everybody. This is episode number 1 of the Bodcast. I am Jacob Bodnar. Up first on the Bodcast is nationalized hurricane insurance. Every form and facet of insurance seems to be wanting to be nationalized at this point. We already have national flood insurance. We want national health insurance. Now we want national hurricane insurance. It's quite ridiculous. Let's tell you why. So right now, as hurricane season begins, Democrats in Congress want to nationalize a chunk of the insurance business that covers major storm damage claims. The proposal, backed by giant insurers Allstate and State Farm Mutual Automobile Insurance Company, as well as Florida lawmakers, focuses on reinsurance, the policies bought by insurers themselves to protect against catastrophic losses. The proposal envisions a taxpayer-financed reinsurance program covering all 50 states, which would essentially backstop the giant insurers in case of disaster. Hold the phone here. It is backed by Allstate and State Farm. Let's take a quick look at Allstate. Allstate and State Farm. Now, in the state of Florida, obviously very prone to hurricanes because they are a peninsula. They are surrounded by ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Atlantic Ocean. They are very prone to hurricanes. They already have a state-run insurance program that does what this federal insurance program would do. Now, it is going to have big losses, they say, if they have another big storm. If they have a big storm, the program is screwed. All right? Now, Allstate and State Farm, they have had to dole out $72 billion in claims. All right? That's a lot of money. So what did they do? Allstate dropped most of their policies in Florida. They dropped 20,000 and they didn't renew, or 90,000, and they didn't renew 120,000. So they are pretty much getting out of there. Why? Because it is so costly to them. $72 billion in claims. Now, the big thing here is that the program could save homeowners roughly $500 apiece in annual premiums in Florida. Now, it is very costly to live on the coast of Florida. Not only is your house very costly, but your insurance is very costly because hurricane damage is massive damage. And like I've pointed out, it costs these insurers a pretty penny. But when you move to Florida and you move to the coast of Florida, you know going in that you're going to have to pay a little more for living in a dangerous area. You have to pay more for living in a dangerous area. There's absolutely no reason why myself, sitting here in Michigan right now, should have to pay for you to live in a dangerous area in Florida. You should foot that bill. Now, there have been stories, and ABC ran a story a couple years back about this woman her insurance increased $14,000. I recommend moving at that point. That is the price you pay for living in a dangerous area. If you want to live on the coast of Florida, you know there's going to be hurricanes. You should also have to pay in case your house gets hit by said hurricane. I shouldn't have to pay. Now, the whole thing here is that the whole program would be on every state. It would be basically the program that's in Florida right now for every single state. Here's the problem. It is a catastrophic program. It is for when there is a catastrophe, a massive hurricane, a massive earthquake, a massive tornado. I live in Michigan. The last time we had a massive anything was many, many years ago. My house is still standing after 10 years. We haven't had a problem. Very few people in Michigan are affected by catastrophic storms. Very few people. In fact, I would verge on saying that the majority, the vast, vast majority of Americans are not affected by catastrophic weather. So why do we need a program that encompasses everybody against catastrophic weather? It doesn't make sense. There are people who live in flood-prone areas and hurricane-prone areas. Let the states deal with their insurance problems if they so please. Florida adopted this insurance policy in 1992 after Hurricane Andrew. They just set up stricter regulations for insurance companies so they don't get up and dodge and leave the entire state like Allstate did. They're making gains in doing this. Now, of course they support this. They want to support this. What this basically does is that if the insurance companies can't foot the bill for something, the federal government steps in. It backstops the giant insurers in case of a disaster, so they don't have to pay for something. So we're not paying for it totally. The insurance companies are still there, but it's like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, where if there is a problem and something needs to be paid off, well, we'll step in and do it. You know, I don't want to do that. You know, it's funny because we have to look. We have a program similar to this right now. It's the federal flood insurance policy. Now, obviously everyone knows Hurricane Katrina came through, was a terrible disaster. That left the flood insurance, national flood insurance, $17 billion in debt. And yet 3 years later, we're talking about doing the same thing for hurricanes, which are more prevalent and maybe even more maybe cause even more destruction. Do we get this? Do our lawmakers understand economics and how things work? Take a look at this. We have something in the United States as a government that no other company on the face of the earth has, and that is guaranteed income, guaranteed revenue, guaranteed money. If you give that to any other business on the face of planet Earth, they will prosper, because most businesses know how to spend their money, and it's pretty basic. You don't spend more than you have. If you have revenues of $100 billion, you don't spend $150 billion. Then you're losing $50 billion. You spend less than that. You make cuts where you need to make cuts. If you have to lay people off, you lay people off. If you have to cut salaries, you do that. You do what you can. The federal government's a little backwards. They have guaranteed money. They always have income and revenue. They force it upon people. Yet, they continually spend more than they make. Which, if you do that to any business on the face of the earth, they would go under pretty damn quick. Yet we continue to want to nationalize everything. We want to nationalize health care. Hillary Clinton wants to nationalize health care, pre-K, sick leave, flood insurance, hurricane insurance. In fact, this hurricane insurance bill is co-sponsored by Miss Clinton, and guess what? She received $1.5 million in campaign contributions from the insurance companies. So we know that it doesn't work. We know that we'll be $17 billion in debt. So you sit down and you say, what can we do? Well, one, it's a federalist ideal here. The federal government should not be providing catastrophic weather-related insurance to everybody on Earth, because it doesn't make sense. Because I haven't done the research, but the vast majority of people aren't affected by it. I have never been affected by a catastrophic storm. So we say, what do? Well, you leave it to the states for one. If you have a state like Florida, and they want to institute this statewide insurance program where they do what the government's doing and backstop the giant insurers, go ahead, fine, do that. Raise taxes in Florida to do that. Florida, it doesn't even have an income tax. They thrive off of tourism. If they spent their money correctly, they could easily have this program prosper. A state like Louisiana, prone to hurricanes, let them deal with it. Let them have a statewide insurance program if they want to. But let's not forget that the will of the people will also come into effect. Remember Hurricane Katrina, millions upon millions upon millions of dollars was donated by American citizens to help the people in that disaster. The money was mismanaged. Terribly mismanaged. You know, we criticize FEMA and Hurricane Katrina. Oh, what a terrible job they did. They recovered slowly. They didn't get down there quick enough and people died because of them and blah, blah, blah. Well, then why do you want the government to run hurricane insurance then? If they can't even help in the post-hurricane, if they can't even get down there in time to recover people and put them in trailers, why do you want them running the hurricane insurance program? Furthermore, we have to remember the public gives money, millions and millions and millions of dollars, anytime there is a disaster. The fires in California. Last year we gave millions of dollars to Hurricane Katrina. We gave millions of dollars to anytime there is a disaster. That's the beauty of America and the American people. They step up to the plate and they donate money. If we use that money wisely, we do not need national hurricane insurance to build people's homes back up. We don't need it because the people will fund a huge chunk of it. Your taxes will go up because of this, folks. Up. You cannot nationalize healthcare, pre-K, flood insurance, hurricane insurance, sick leave, and even oil now, if you're Maxine Waters, if you don't raise taxes. You can't have a bill like the Lieberman-Warner bill, which calls for cap and trade and all these things, if you don't raise taxes. Plain and simple, we don't need nationalized hurricane insurance. We don't even need nationalized flood insurance. There's a reason why these corporations were leaving Florida, and it's because it costs an arm and a leg to provide people with this insurance. They should have to pay for it. They're the ones who decided to live on the coast of Florida or by the Mississippi River where it's prone to flooding. They should have to pay for their decision. If they don't want to pay that money, don't live on the coast of Florida where you can get hit by a hurricane.